By understanding the past, we can gain valuable insights into the present and aspire for a better future. Join me as we embark on this journey through the pages of Philippine political history. Philippine politics traveled the long road of evolution from the barangays of pre-Hispanic times to present form of government under the 1987 Constitution. Ended, the Filipinos already had a civilization before being colonized by the Spaniards. The Spaniards, to their credit, introduced a central government which ironically awakened in Filipino a sense of nationhood.
The historical background of Philippine democratic politics is quite complex and spans several centuries. The Philippines, as we know it today, was colonized by Spain in the 16th century and remained under Spanish rule for approximately 300 years. During this time, the Philippines was governed as a Spanish colony with power concentrated in the hands of Spanish officials and the Catholic Church. The indigenous Filipino population had limited political rights and representation.
The abuses of the colonizers prompted initially calls for reform, which later morphed into cries for a revolution uniting many Filipinos throughout the archipelago.
In the late 19th century, a nationalist movement emerged, advocating for independence from Spanish rule. This movement, led by figures such as Jose Rizal and Andres Bonifacio, sought to establish a sovereign and democratic Philippines. The Philippine Revolution, which began in 1896, eventually led to the Declaration of Independence from Spain on June 12, 1898.
American colonizers introduced the Filipinos to the democratic practices of the West. Left on their own, the Filipinos have a bumpy road to democratic politics beginning with the Third Republic in 1946.
In 1946, the Philippines finally achieved full independence from the United States and it transitioned into democratic republic with a multi-party system. The Philippines adopted a constitution that outlined the separation of powers. With the president as the head of state and government, the country has since experienced various political shifts, including the declaration of martial law under Ferdinand Marcos from 1972 to 1981. Today, the Philippines continues to operate as a democratic country, with regular elections and a diverse political landscape. However, it is important to note that the country still faces challenges such as corruption, poverty, and political instability.
The evolution of Philippine politics, government, and governance. The pre-Spanish government. The barangay was the basic political unit that existed throughout the Philippine island prior to the 1400s. The head or the leader was called a datu or raha who was assisted by the elders in the community. All the powers of the government were exercised by the datu or raha. He was the chief executive, lawgiver, chief judge, and military head. The Sultanates of Mindanao. From the 1400s onwards, the various communities in Sulu and Maguindanao were organizing themselves into sultanates. The sultanates represented a significant political advancement in pre-colonial Philippines as the Muslim communities of Mindanao achieved a level of political unity and stability that enabled them to establish strong diplomatic relations with other Asian communities and successfully resist Spanish conquest. The datos were part of a council called Ruma Bichara, which assisted or provided counsel to the sultans. This council also included aristocrats known as the Panglima. The Roma Bichara oversaw other officials of the state. First is the Wajar or the advisors. It provides and monitor infrastructure and facilities for the public service. The second one is Raha Laut or the leader of the maritime force. It oversees the promotion and development of the maritime industry and also provide effective regulation of shipping enterprises. The third one is the Kadi or the magistrate. They listen carefully to all evidence given in court and follow structured decision-making processes. They are advised on points of law by legal advisor who sits in court with them. There is also three social classes. The first one is Maharlika or the nobles. The second one is Timawas or free men. The third one is Alipin or slaves. The Datu or the Raha come from the Maharlika, the upper class. Spanish colonial government in the Philippines. In 1521, Spain embarked on its colonial pursuits in Asia as it launched the Magellan expedition. Magellan and his crew arrived in the Philippine island and traveled throughout eastern and central Visayas. In 1565, Miguel Lopez de Legazpi successfully conquered the native communities in Luzon and Visayas and declared the Philippines a colony of Spain. The Philippines was governed indirectly by the King of Spain through the Viceroy of Mexico. When Mexico, also a former colony of Spain, gained its freedom in 1821, the Philippines was ruled directly by Spain until 1898. The Governor-General. The Governor-General was the highest and most powerful official of the Spanish colonial government in the Philippines. Apart from his administrative rule, the Governor-General also had a military role and was considered the commander-in-chief of the military forces. It is for this reason that the full title of the Governor-General was Governor and Captain General of the Philippines. He was appointed by the King of Spain. At times, he was called the representative of the King of the Spain, or the Little King in the Philippines. The Governor-General was also in charge of the Royal Audiencia, the judiciary body the Philippines at that time. In addition, he was the vice-real patron who had the power to appoint priests to parishes throughout the Philippines. One significant basis of laws and governance for the colony was the Recopilación de las Leyes de los Reinos de las Indias, a compilation of laws applicable to the various Spanish colonies throughout the world. The Governor-General had the power to suspend or ignore laws imposed by the King of Spain, if unapplicable to the Philippines. The Katipunan Government. Agoncillo on 2012 narrates that the Katipunan was a secret society that led the revolution on August 26, 1896. It was organized by Andres Bonifacio with a structure that has a central government vested in a Supreme Council. Referring to the other aspect of Katipunan structure, Garcia on 2015 mentions that in each province there was provincial council, in each town a popular council, and the judicial power was exercised by a judicial council. The Katipunan was replaced by another government whose officials, headed by General Emilio Aguinaldo as president, were elected in Tijeros Convention on March 22, 1897. Biak na Bato Republic, On November 1, 1897, a republic was established by General Emilio Aguinaldo in Biak na Bato. Now it is called San Miguel de Mayumo, Bulacan. Through the Biak na Bato Constitution, Biak na Bato Republic declared that the aim of the revolution was the separation of the Philippines from the Spanish monarchy and their formation into an independent state. The Biak na Bato Republic lasted up to December 15, 1897 with conclusion of the Pact of Biak na Bato, a peace agreement between the Spanish government and the revolutionary forces. Emilio Aguinaldo's dictatorial government. The Pact of Biak na Bato failed and General Emilio Aguinaldo returned to the Philippines and resumed the fighting against the Spaniards. With military victories under his leadership, according to Agoncillo on 2012, Aguinaldo decided that it was time to establish a Filipino government. He formed the dictatorial government on May 24, 1898. The most important achievement of dictatorial government were the proclamation of the Philippines' independence in Cavite on June 12, 1898, and the reorganization of local governments.
First Philippine Republic. A Congress was convened in January 1899 in Barasuan Church and through the Malolos Constitution, inaugurated the First Philippine Republic, the first Asian democracy to be established during the Philippine Revolution that ended the more than 300 years of Spanish colonial rule in the islands. The American colonial period. Three kinds of government were created during the American occupational period. First, military government. Second, civil government. And third, Commonwealth government. American military government. According to Buenaflor, the American military rule in the Philippines began on April 4, 1898. Garcia explains that under the setting, the President of the United States had the power to establish a military government in the Philippines as Commander-in-Chief of all armed forces of the United States. His authority was delegated to the military governor who exercised all powers of the government as long as the war lasted. First was Wesley Merritt, the second was General Edwin Otis, and the third and the last was Major General Arthur MacArthur. Civil government. Pursuant to the so-called Spooner Amendment on the Army Appropriation Act passed in the U.S. Congress on March 3, 1901, which ended the military regime in the Philippines, the civil government was inaugurated in Manila on July 4, 1901. The position of the civil governor was created on October 29, 1901 and exercised legislative powers. He remained as President of the Philippine Commission, the sole lawmaking body of the Philippines from 1901 to 1907. From 1907 to 1916, the Philippine Commission acted as the upper house of the legislative branch, with the Philippine Assembly serving as the lower house. After the passage of the Spooner Law in 1916, these two bodies gave way to the Philippine legislature. The Philippines was represented in the United States by two resident commissioners who were elected the Philippine legislature. The Commonwealth Government. The next chapter in the political development of the country was the establishment of the Commonwealth of the Philippines. Agoncillo, Garcia, and Buenaflor explains that the pursuant to an act of United States Congress on March 24, 1934, commonly known as the Tidings McDuffie Law. The law provided for a transition period of 10 years during which the Philippine Commonwealth would cooperate, and at the expiration of the said period on July 4, 1946, the independence of the Philippines would be proclaimed and established. The Commonwealth Government of the Philippines was inaugurated on November 15, 1935, following the first national election held on September 12, 1935, under the 1935 Constitution. Manuel L. Quezon and Sergio Osmeña won as President and Vice President, respectively. The Japanese Military Administration. It was established in Manila on January 3, 1942, one day after its occupation by the Japanese forces. Under a proclaim issued by the Japanese High Command, the sovereignty of the United States over the Philippines was declared determinated. According to Buenaflor, civil government known as the Philippine Executive Commission composed of Filipinos was organized by the Japanese with George B. Vargas as chairman of the said commission. The commission exercised both the executive and legislative powers. Buenaflor clarifies that the laws enacted were, however, subject to the approval of the Commander-in-Chief of the Japanese forces. The judiciary continued in the same form as it was under the Commonwealth, although it functioned without the independence which it had traditionally enjoyed. In this government, Jose P. Laurel became the President of the Second Philippine Republic on October 14, 1943.
The Third Republic, as posted on the official Gazette webpage of the Philippine government as of July 20, 2022. The following are the President of the Philippines with discussion about their administration from the Third Republic to Fourth Republic. The Rojas administrations, May 28, 1946 to April 15, 1948. President Manuel Rojas became the first President of the Independent Republic of the Philippines. In an effort to solve the massive socio-economic problems of the period, President Rojas reorganized the government and proposed a wide-sweeping legislative program. The Quirino administrations, April 17, 1948, December 30, 1953. President Elpidio Quirino, goals as chief executive as stated in his first State of the Nation address, revolved around strengthening the people's confidence in the government and the restoration of peace. In order to achieve this, the chief executive traveled around the country to inspect firsthand the condition of the nation. President Quirino's 6 years administration were marked by sustainable post-war reconstruction, general economic gains, and increased economic aid from the United States, basic social problems, however, particularly in the rural areas, remain unsolved. Quirino's administration was tainted by widespread graft and corruption.
The Magsaysay Administration, December 30, 1953, March 7, 1957. To help the rural masses was the focal point of the populist administration of President Ramon Magsaysay. In his first executive order, he established the Presidential Complaint and Action Commission which investigate various citizen complaints and recommended remedial actions through different government agencies. The commission served to boost the nation's confidence with its government. It was seen as a fulfillment of President Magsaysay's promise to become a president for the people. The principles of Magsaysay administration were codified in the Magsaysay Credo and became the theme of leadership and public services.
Garcia administration, March 18, 1957 to December 30, 1961. Carlos P. Garcia's administration promoted the Filipino First policy, whose focal point was to regain economic independence, a national effort by Filipinos to obtain major and dominant participation in their economy. The administration campaigned for the citizens' support in patronizing Filipino products and services, and implemented import and currency controls favorable for Filipino industries. In connection with the government's goal of self-sufficiency was the austerity program, which President Garcia described in his first State of the Nation address as more work, more thrift, more productive investment, and more efficiency, that aimed to mobilize national savings and Anti-Corrupt and Corrupt Practices Act through Republic Act Number 301, aimed to prevent corruption and promote honesty and public trust. The Macapagal administration, December 30, 1961 to December 30, 1965. President Diosdado Macapagal, during his inaugural address on December 30, 1961, emphasized the responsibilities and goals to be attained in the new era that was the Macapagal administration. He reiterated his resolve to eradicate corruption and assured the public that honesty would prevail in his presidency. President Macapagal too aimed at self-sufficiency and the promotion of every citizen's welfare through the partnership of the government and private sector, and to alleviate poverty by providing solutions for unemployment. In the field of foreign relations, the Philippines became a foundation member of Maefilindo through the Manila Accord of 1963. The regional organization of Malayo states strove for Asian solution by Asian nation for Asian problems, and aimed to resolve national and regional problems through regional diplomacy. Marcos administration for the Republic, December 30, 1965 to February 25, 1986. The last president of the Third Republic of the Philippines was President Ferdinand A. Marcos. Prior to the events of martial law, the first term of the Marcos administration, as emphasized in his inaugural address on December 30, 1965, focused on the revival of the greatness of the nation. President Marcos was the first president to be re-elected in 1969, although the election was tainted by violence and allegation that Marcos used the treasury to fund his campaign. However, significant protests such as the First Quarter Storm, the Communist and Moro insurgencies, and civil unrest heightened this, made Marcos in 1972 declare martial law and suspend the constitution. A new constitution calling for a semi-presidential government was approved in 1973, but Marcos still ruled by decree until 1978, when the interim Batasang Pambansa was elected. However, opposition groups, whose leaders mostly had already left in exile, boycotted by the election, and Marcos still allowed martial law to continue. Marcos did end martial law in 1981, but opposition groups still boycotted the 1981 presidential election, which Marcos easily won. Opposition leader Benigno Aquino Jr. was slain upon his return to the country in 1983. By this time, the government was marred by alleged rampant corruption and allegation of human rights violations. The opposition participated in the 1984 parliamentary election and won several seats, but not enough to topple Marcos KBL to counter growing opposition. Marcos called a snap election in 1986. The opposition nominated Benigno's Window Corazon as their candidate. Marcos was declared the winner, but the opposition refused to accept the result, alleging that the election was rigged. The People Power Revolution drove Marcos from power and Aquino became president. Aquino ruled by decree in 1987 when a new constitution restoring the presidential system was approved. In the ensuing legislative election, the pro-Aquino parties won most of the seats in Congress.
Fifth Republic, 1986 to present time. As of July 20, 2020, according to the webpage of Fifth Philippine Republic Philippine History and according to Mendoza and Miligrito on 2016, the following are the Philippine presidents from 1986 to present. President Corazon Cuanco Aquino, the 11th President of the Philippines and the first woman to become President of the country. The political landscape of the country at that time did not look any better. To resolve this, Aquino commissioned a referendum that would be the framework for the new government. Released in February 1987, the new charter easily won the approval of the public. Cory Aquino can be praised for a notable political reform made during her tenure that aimed to decentralize political power in the government, the 1991 Local Government Code. As of July 20, 2020, according to the webpage of the Fifth Philippine Republic Philippine History, Fidel V. Ramos took office in 1992 and immediately worked on the country's recovery and initiated the Social Reform Agenda, or SRA, that was oriented towards alleviating poverty. He also led the implementation of Build, Operate, Transfer, known as BOT. It is a law which resulted into improved public infrastructure and regulated several industries that liberalized the economy. Under his term, the country also had improvements in its relation to secessionist Moro Islamic liberation. He was the first Asian recipient of UNESCO Peace Award this effort. He also came to be known as the Centennial President for his successful supervision of the 100th anniversary of the country's independence from the Spanish rule celebrated in June 12, 1998. Estrada became the 13th president in 1998 after Ramos finished his term. Estrada was the previous mayor in the municipality of San Juan, Metro Manila, and vice president of Ramos. He gained support in the election for his promise to begin a pro-poor administration that his predecessors failed to promote in their respective platforms and won with a wide margin. This support spiraled down as his administration was accused with corruption. Critics branded him of failing to live up to his promises due to the resurfacing of cronyism in the government. According to Mendoza and Miligrito, Gloria Macapagal Arroyo became the president after Estrada was ousted through People Power II uprising. In the 2004 Philippine national elections, Arroyo ran and won the presidential race. She was seated into office for the second time. Because of this, Mendoza and Milagreto further explained that she became the second longest sitting president in the country. As of July 20, 2020, according to the webpage of Fifth Philippine Republic Philippine History, Arroyo pushed for a stronger republic, geared toward vigorous economic reforms under her administration. However, her administration was bombarded with several controversies and impeachment attempts in the last 5 years. Discontentment led to frequent protesters expressing their disappointment and had their rallies at the streets.
As of July 20, 2020, according to the webpage of Fifth Republic Philippine History, Benigno Simon Juanco Aquino III, aka Nunoy and Pinoy, was proclaimed as the 15th President of the Republic on June 30, 2010. The same webpage added that Aquino's 6 years term is remembered for both positive and negative events. He has been criticized for his government's slow response to help the victims of the super typhoon Yolanda, the Mamasapano massacre, and other crises. In spite of these negative impressions, Aquino left the presidency with a stable democracy and a higher credit rating. Fighting corruption was a major objective on his administration to realize his election campaign slogan, Daang Matuwid or Straight Path. As of July 20, 2020, according to the webpage of Fifth Philippine Republic Philippine History, Rodrigo Ortigong Roa Duterte, aka Rodi, takes oath as the 16th President of the Philippines at Malacanang Place in Manila at 12 noon, June 30, 2016. The same webpage mentioned that Duterte is a lawyer and politician. He is the former mayor and former 1st District Congressman of Davao City in Mindanao, an island in the southern Philippines where Muslim insurgents are based. He is the first president to come from Mindanao. Duterte is clamoring for a change in the constitution from a presidential to a federal form of government. Duterte won the presidential race as an outspoken, strong-willed crime fighter. He is, however, criticized for his alleged support of vigilante groups involved in extrajudicial killings to fight crime.